Can you make a game in Python without downloading a single asset? Just you, the code, and some falling blocks of doom. Today, we're building a tiny arcade game in Pygame, where you control a square trying not to die. No sprites, no sound effects, no mercy. Let's do this. First, and the most important, install Pygame. Then, let's set up a simple game window. We've got a screen. Now we bring pane. We'll make our player just a rectangle and let it move. We use some quick math to make a rect, we center it horizontally and place it near the bottom. Width and height, 50 pixels. Speed, let's go with 5. Now in the game loop, the part that runs every frame, we listen for key presses. Here's what's happening. We use key.getPressed to get the current state of every key, whether it's pressed or not. Then we check if the left arrow key is being held down and if the player hasn't slammed into the edge of the screen. That's where player.left bigger than 0 comes in. It makes sure we can only move left if we're still inside the screen. The same logic applies to the right arrow key, but this time we check player.right lesser than white, making sure we don't escape to the right side like some kind of bug. So it's all about clamping the movement, simple, smooth, and fully under control. Left and right, that's all you get. No jumping. This isn't Mario. Now comes the danger. Red rectangles start falling from the sky. Why red? Because that's the universal color for danger. We set up an empty list called enemies to store our little doom bricks and give them a fixed enemy speed. To make things appear from the top at random positions, we define a spawn enemy function. Inside it, we generate a random x coordinate somewhere within the screen white. But we subtract 50 to make sure the enemy doesn't spawn partially off screen. Since each enemy is 50 pixels wide, then we create a Pygame rect with that position and append it to our enemies list. In the main game loop, we go through each enemy. Each enemy drops down the screen by increasing the Y, using enemy speed. Then we check for a collision. And if it hits, that's game over. We also clean up any enemies that goes off screen by checking if its top is greater than the screen height, and remove it if so. Finally, to make the enemies spawn rhythmically, we count frames. Every 30 frames we call spawn enemy, which feels just right to keep the tension rising without overwhelming the player instantly. And with that, you have got the core loop of chaos. Player dodging, enemies dropping, and a whole lot of potential panic. Let's put it all together. 60 FPS, smooth that, let's go. Your challenge, if you dare to take it on. Add a score counter that ticks up every second. Simple, but it gives the player something to fight for. Then crank up the chaos. Make enemies get faster over time. Want to go full nightmare mode? Try this. Every 10 seconds, spawn 2 enemies instead of 1. And if you can dodge everything for 30 seconds straight, you win. Or maybe you just unlock the privilege of suffering even longer. In this tiny game, we covered how to create a game window with Pygame, move a player using the arrow keys, spawn and animate enemies, and implement collision detection and game over logic. And we did it all without loading a single image file. Just rectangles, pixels, and Python. If you liked this Pygame pilot, share it, drop a like, and subscribe so I know you want more. But for now, I'll see you in the next dimension.